Welcome back to the Exodus Media Network. Yes, I'm here again. I made the commitment to go live 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, and then on Sunday nights. I'm going to do my best to uphold that commitment. And I told everyone that I don't have a set time that I will be going live daily. I can just assure you that I will be going live Monday through Friday and on Sundays. And once I can nail down an exact time, I will promote that and advertise that. Today's show is going to be isn't going to be as long as normal, but I want to blow through quite a few things. And remember, here at the Exodus Media Network, it's all about the rapid dissemination of information, in particular consequential information. Also, I'm all about bringing you this thing called politics and this thing called life from a completely different angle. What do I mean when I say that? Most of the people on my side, I am on the conservative side, the Judeo-Christian side, um, are capitulators. They are capitulating uh, routinely on the issues that matter. So let me say this first and foremost. I left off yesterday and I mentioned DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. To the black people out there, diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI has nothing to do with you. It was created to manage and oversee the interests of white liberals and the LGBT community. It has absolutely nothing to do with you. I reiterate, I repeat, black people. DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, is an illusion. It has nothing to do with you. It was created to manage and oversee the interests of white liberals and the LGBT community, and you are the face of DEI because that is the most expeditious way for them to get to where they want to get to, and that's by making you the face, thereby playing what I had coined as political blackface. They know that if they present all of their agenda items with a black individual, therefore a black face, they can always hide behind the accusation of racism. And typically, 9 times out of 10, and all you need to do is take the most cursory of glances, as you can see, 9 times out of 10, they use a black female. Therefore, they have double protection, meaning the white liberals and the LGBTQs that are using DEI to oversee their interests. They can now hide behind racism, the accusation of racism, and they can hide behind gender. That's why they use a black female. Let me get that out. I cannot say that enough. I cannot say that enough. And that's how they are able to successfully sustain their attack on America, how they are able to successfully sustain their attack on capitalism, on the patriarchy, ultimately on the family, um, on morality. They are attacking all of these things. Americanism. They have attacked the whole concept of Make America Great Again by deeming that to be some type of a white nationalist racist movement, which that whole idea is completely fraudulent, like everything that the left, that these Democrats offer up. This invasion that you see happening on our southern border, once again, that's something else that is embedded into the whole DEI concept and culture and protected by that, because the minute you say something, they call you racist and a xenophobe. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not rocket science. This is nothing that is very difficult to figure out unless you're simply not paying attention. And right now on my mind, I'm thinking about you university students, you kids, you millennials, you Generation Zers. The most important education that you can get, in particular, if you want to be able to repel, I'm sorry, not repel, but if you want to be able to uh, uh, get something in your mind other than the lies and the deceit and the indoctrination that are coming from your universities, you should be tuning into the Exodus Media Network, and you should be sharing this with your peers. Many of you are afraid to share this type of content with your peers because they will ostracize you. They will label you a racist, a xenophobe, a homophobe, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And unfortunately for you, You don't have the intestinal fortitude to withstand that verbal assault of these false accusations and these labels that they will give you. You need to grow a backbone, you Generation Zers and you millennials. My generation, Generation X, was the last generation that had a backbone. You people need to grow a backbone. Stop being cowards. I'm so sick of you people. And I have my analytics. And as I move forward, I will get more in-depth analytics. But the analytics tells me that a good number of you are coming across this, but the analytics also tells me that you're cowards because you failed to take this information and disseminate it. That means you're not copying the links and texting the links out of the shows, of the different places that you can find this content. Speaking of that, let me go over this. This is important if you're going to help this show, this content, beat the algorithm all across the board. This is important if you're going to help this show beat the algorithm. And yet last night, number 117, I did a show on MAGA and Majka. Majka, just like political blackface, is another concept that I came up with, which means make America Judeo-Christian again. And if you paid attention, if you viewed last night's show, you will, once you view it, you will understand that Majka is the engine that's going to power MAGA, because MAGA is powerless without Majka. You heard me, ladies and gentlemen. But help me beat the algorithm. Watch the show, share the show, leave a freaking comment. If you don't like the content, leave a comment and say, screw you. I don't give a shit. Just leave a comment. Leave a comment, negative or positive. I could care less. I could care less. Just leave a comment. But in order to help the algorithm, in addition to leaving a comment, if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe, the Exodus Media Network. If you want to watch on Rumble, subscribe, Alan Exodus on Rumble. If you want to view some of the content on Twitter, at Exodus Media 12 on Twitter, X, True Social, Exodus Media Network at Alan Exodus, Instagram, Exodus Media Network. These are just some of the places that you can access the content. But if you find yourself in any of these places, leave comments, hit like, hit follow, hit subscribe. Let's help with the algorithm, because this is a voice that needs to be heard. This is a voice that needs to be heard. I'm tired of all these, and I don't want to really get into this, but you're hearing the same old shit from all of these so-called conservative pundits and podcasters and commentators. You need something much more in-depth, something much more realer than what you are currently hearing. I was recently in Chicago, and speaking of me recently being in Chicago, last week I was there for about 3 days. Let me make this point. I discovered that in Chicago, ShotSpotter is being dismantled by Mayor Brandon Johnson. Mayor Brandon Johnson, at the best I can say about him is that I'm not even going to say it. Let me just make this point. People of Chicago, if you actually live in the city of Chicago, I'm not talking about all you little people in the suburbs that love to claim Chicago. You want to say, I'm from Chicago, when you're not. I'm talking about the actual inhabitants that live in the city proper. Your mayor, not only is he dismantling ShotSpotter, which helps them to pinpoint where shootings, that type of activity has happened, so that they can rapidly respond and thereby apprehend this criminal element in your city that is holding you hostage in your city, and maybe even prevent further murders. Well, he's dismantling that. And the reason that he gives is, he says that ShotSpotter leads to over-policing. Ladies and gentlemen, let me speak very clearly to you. Anytime you hear a Democrat, a black Democrat, a white liberal Democrat talking about over-policing in black communities, let me tell you what they're really saying. They're really saying that they don't want to hold you accountable. They're really saying that they're going to leave you vulnerable because they want to remove the police presence. You need that police presence in your cities, because these cities are where this crime is running rapid. And ladies and gentlemen, don't be fooled, because the narrative coming from the white liberal left and the black liberal left is that over-policing is a bad thing. Well, over-policing is necessary because people in these communities, your community, cannot police themselves. And when I say police themselves, I'm not talking about policing as far as you citizens going out with guns and policing one another. I'm talking about parents, grandparents, aunts, and uncles keeping the young adults in their families in check, putting something in their hearts and minds so that they do not go out and desire to be a part of the criminal element, whether that's participating in gang violence, selling drugs, etc. This is happening not because we don't have a problem in these urban core Black communities because of over policing. Over policing is not a problem. Over policing, if you can call it that, is really a response to what's taking place in the community. Therefore, the community needs more policing. And these communities would not need more policing if these parents would be parents and not raise these kids to be wild ass animals running rapid in the streets, committing crimes. So Brandon Johnson, once again, is leaving you, the citizens of Chicago, vulnerable because he's going to dismantle ShotSpotter, which is a damn good system and helps to protect the inhabitants of urban core America. In addition to that, you already know this, and you're talking about this in Chicago, but you're not being aggressive enough, Black citizens of Chicago. You're upset about all these illegals that are coming to your city because your leadership has deemed your city to be a sanctuary city. Here's what I want to say about Chicago. You people in the city of Chicago, I cannot understand why you don't get together and march on City Hall. And I mean 100,000 people should march down on City Hall, and you should demand the removal of each and every one of these illegals that are terrorizing and trespassing in your city. And 99,999 of you should be Black, because you're the ones you're getting the worst of this whole illegal invasion. I can't believe that you Black folk in Chicago haven't organized and marched on City Hall. And you should have Brandon Johnson recalled, and you should have just about each and every one of your aldermen recalled. And then you should run for mayor. You citizens of Chicago that should march on City Hall and have Brandon Johnson and all of your aldermen recalled, and you should go out and you should run for mayor. And the first action that you should, and run for alderman, and the first action that you citizens of Chicago need to take against the current and the past previous administrations is you need to say that your city is no longer a sanctuary city. And you need to get the Cook County Sheriff. You need to get the Cook County Sheriff to do their damn job. And they need to transport each and every one of these illegals out of your city. As I said, I was just there in Chicago last week, and I was there for approximately 3 days, and I was amazed. I was amazed at what I saw. Because, here living in Cincinnati, and we have an illegal problem here, but it's nothing like what you all have. Our city has been deemed to be a sanctuary city, but we don't have the problem that you have. And hopefully, we're going to do something about it. Some of us are going to do something about it. But back to you, Chicago, here's my point. I'm walking the streets of Chicago during the day and at night, and here's what I see. I see more illegals than anything. I see more illegals than white inhabitants. I see more illegals, Hispanics, than Black inhabitants. I see illegals everywhere. I see illegals in the alley fighting over bags of food and clothing. I saw on one night on a somewhat what could be referred to as a side street, I saw at least 100 illegals in a large commotion, and they were all on the sidewalks and actually blocking the streets. And I don't know what they were fighting or arguing over, but these people obviously had nowhere to go. Their home was right there in the street and on those sidewalks. And I'm looking at this crap. And I'm going to really get to the meat of this whole thing that had me pissed. I was pissed because I walked around and I saw all of this. And I watched how the white liberals that love to talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and you white liberals that voted for all of this sanctuary city crap, and you white liberals that are all for allowing all of these people into our country, I watched you well-to-do white liberals walk around the streets of Chicago, and here's one thing that I found to be very funny. The middle class, upper middle class, and wealthy white liberals, you don't even live in the city. You live in the suburbs, the vast majority of you. You come into the city to drink, to hang out, to eat, to go to the theater and to do all these things that you want to do. You want to come into the city and take advantage of all the wonderful things that it offers for you. And then you know what you do? You take your happy ass right back out to the suburbs. See, you don't have to deal with this illegal problem. You don't have to deal with them coming into your suburban area and occupying this or occupying that. You don't have to deal with competing for them for limited resources, you bastards. And I can't stand you. And I've talked to hundreds of people from the suburban areas of Chicago, and you all say the same damn thing. You all talk about diversity. The city is so great. The city is so wonderful. Of course it is, because you can come in and take advantage of all the wonderful things that it has to offer, and then you take your ass right back out to the suburbs, and you don't have to deal with this illegal mess that they have down in the city. You don't have to deal with this crime problem that they have down in the city. You don't have to deal with the trash and all the shit that's going on in the inner city urban core of Chicago, because you can fly your happy ass right back out to the suburbs. And I'm gonna tell you this, ladies and gentlemen, because I looked into their eyes, I looked into the souls of these white liberals. And this may sound funny, but let me tell you how they respond when they come down into the city, to these illegals and to these poor homeless people down there. They don't even see them. They're invisible to them. They step right over and walk right by them and never even see them. Now, I find that to be very funny, when the white liberals are always talking about and professing how they have this bleeding heart. And so they'll go out and they'll vote for sanctuary cities and all of that shit. Okay? And they're totally fine with 10 million illegals coming over the border and being driven and flown all throughout the United States to all of these urban core areas. They're fine with it because they don't have to deal with it. That's why they're fine with it. And then I was coming out of Patello's, and I had to have the hot dog. Had the hot dog and had the chocolate cake milkshake. Best damn hot dog on the planet. And when I come out, I had a homeless black guy asking me for some money. I said, I don't have money. And so we began to have a conversation. And he's obviously, you can see how, you know, he internally he's disgruntled. He's having an issue with his condition. Now, we can sit here and we can talk about how he got there, et cetera, et cetera. But the point that I wanted to get to with him was this. I told the young man, I said, listen, talk to me. He looks at me. I'm like, no. If we're going to talk, you got to keep it real with me. Talk to me. Tell me what the problem really is. What's really going on? And I had to come at him like that a couple of times to get him to release and say what he needed to say right there on the corner. And he said, it's this damn Joe Biden allowing all these people in here, getting our resources. And like I told him, yes, he's allowing these people in there competing with you for limited resources. You were already in a bad situation. He doubled down on your bad situation. And the young man was pissed, and he should have been. Because it's one thing to be homeless and out in the streets and have to deal with that situation. But then you have elected officials that I told him that you probably voted for, and everybody around us, because we were standing on a city street corner, and you know, it's hundreds of people out here. And all these people standing around, they voted for this man's condition to be worsened, because I'm in Chicago. 9 out of 10 people are voting Democrat. So all of these people standing around me and this young man having this conversation on this busy street corner, they had voted for the right to have this man's condition doubled down on. He's already fighting against a bad set of circumstances. Yet they vote to be sanctuary cities, knowing that all these people are being brought here. I was pissed, but it was very refreshing that when I pressed him to, hey, talk to me, tell me what's really going on. And when I pressed him, he immediately went to Biden and these damn Democrats allowing these people in, all of these illegals in here. But Chicago, you know, you're a proud people. Chicagoans are people. I encounter people that are actually from the city of Chicago. You tend to be proud. Well, why can't you be proactive and proud enough to go down there and march on City Hall? Who is the individual in Chicago that's going to organize 100,000 citizens to march on City Hall and demand that Brandon Johnson do something about this. But what you really need to do is have that idiot recalled. And you need to go and march on your aldermans. And you need to call them to the table, call them to the floor, and actually do something about those people. They need to be gotten rid of. But yeah, my trip to Chicago, I found it to be, it was very interesting to watch how the white liberals just don't even see all these illegals out in the streets, begging, sleeping in doorways. And that's another very interesting thing that I saw. In the evening, you know, these illegals, they know what time the different businesses close. And every evening I would see how once a business closed, they would go and reside in the doorway because the doorway offered a little shelter, you know, from the wind and potential precipitation. And so every night you have people living in these doorways on these side streets, and that's their shelter. This is what Biden has done. Biden has allowed all these 10 million people across the border so they can live in the alleys and fight over bags of food and clothing and live in doorways. And yet they claim they care so much about these people. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm pissed. You should be pissed. I'm pissed and you should be pissed. And look at Tyson Foods. Tyson Foods just laid off what I think 1,200 American workers, and immediately on the heels, as soon as they lay off 1,200, announce that they're going to lay off 1,200 American workers, they then come out and say they're going to hire 52,000 illegals. The corporation that is Tyson Foods is undermining the American worker and the American consumer. And if I were you, I wouldn't buy anything with Tyson on it when I go to the grocery store. I know I'm not. How can you announce that you're going to lay off 1,200 American workers, then immediately announce that you're going to hire 52,000 illegals? You can't tell me this wasn't a plan. If you don't think this was planned out pre-2020, contingent on the Democrats resuming power, taking over the Oval Office once again, I got a bridge I'll sell you. Now, right now. Look down at the bottom. I'm going to sell you a bridge. That's where you can contribute. And I'll sell you a bridge for $1,000. Send $1,000 to anyone, to my Venmo, my Cash App, or my PayPal, and I'll send you the deed to a bridge. Please. Listen, John H. Tyson, he's the chairman of Tyson Foods. He's 70 years old. He's a billionaire. It was his grandfather that started Tyson Foods. He's sitting back. He's allowing this to happen. He's watching all of this to happen. He's in on it. Why nobody's mentioning his name? Why don't we talk about John H. Tyson? Why don't somebody march on John H. Tyson's house? All you Negroes got out here and you marched and did what you wanted to do over George Floyd. Well, if I don't know where John H. Tyson lives, but if you live in that city or in that vicinity, y'all need to march on his house and let him know how you feel about Tyson Foods laying off American workers and hiring 52,000 illegals. You always want to march for something, but nobody ever wants to march for the right thing, for the right reason. Tulsi Gabbard. I'm sick of seeing her face on the television screen. I got to talk about her. The reason why I'm talking about her, because here recently in the past 2 days, I'm beginning to hear more rumblings coming from you so-called conservatives talking about how you think Tulsi Gabbard should be on the short list for VP. You're an idiot. Listen, I'm working hard to tone down as it relates to cursing. But what I see makes it difficult. You so-called conservative pundits, you're fucking idiots. Excuse me, but you're fucking idiots running around talking about Tulsi Gabbard should be on the short list for VP. Why? What in the hell has she done? Oh, I get it. You think she should be VP because she's now saying she's no longer a Democrat, right? Is that what it is? That shows me that you're a political novice. This bitch still identifies with abortion and homosexual marriage. So how in the hell can she be the VP as a Republican? Those aren't Republican values. You people are so quick to jump the gun anytime you think somebody's leaning in your direction politically. I get sick of this. You're a bunch of political novices. Trump's VP, yeah, right. Furthermore, she's a Hindu. And I've explained to you in other episodes why we can't elect Hindus in America. And it's the same reason why we shouldn't be electing Muslims. Won't nobody say it, but I'll say it. The Hindu religion has approximately 330 million gods. You want a VP or a president or a senator or a representative who's a Hindu or even a city councilman or a city mayor or a state representative or a state senator that's a Hindu? All you're doing is cracking the door open for this nonsense. 33 million gods. One of the gods is a vampire. Another one is a monkey. And the list goes on of all these foolish identities that these 330 million gods have. And you want to elect a Hindu. Y'all, you people, that's why I call you surface dwellers. You don't even look past the damn surface. You hear somebody standing on TV, they invited Tulsi Gabbard to CPAC, and whoever's running CPAC is a freaking idiot. Because she's not the first person that's been invited there that's not even close to being a conservative. The best, at best, she could be considered a rhino at best, but she's not even that. I get sick of this crap. We don't even think. And then we wonder why we're lagging so far behind as it relates to winning hearts and minds. Why we're lagging so far behind the left as it relates to controlling the culture. They've taken control of the culture. That's the reason why it's culturally acceptable to have abortions and to marry men and women and women and to buy into this false climate science, and the list goes on. Because our side hasn't done anything to win the hearts and minds and therefore win the culture. You're preoccupied with winning elections. So you want to have these pep rallies. I talked about it last night. MAGA was nothing more than a pep rally. I'm not trying to belittle MAGA, but I'm being honest. And you can't get back to the pinnacle if we're not going to be honest about what the hell is going on. MAGA was nothing more than a pep rally. And what does a pep rally do? A pep rally is for the underdog. The underdog can be emotionally stimulated and supercharged to the point to where they can pull off that upset in that one moment in time. But we need more than that. We need to be able to win, and we need to be able to sustain winning. And the only way we can have a sustained winning is that what we have to do, we have to win hearts and minds, change the culture back to Judeo-Christian values and principles. Hence, I created the term MAJCA, Make America Judeo-Christian Again. And I'm going to reiterate that every time I'm on here live, I'm going to talk about that and a few other things because I can't say it enough. This shit is insane. Scott McAfee. If you don't know who Scott McAfee is, he's another so-called conservative, so-called Republican coward. He oversaw the Fani Willis trial. There's no way in hell Fani Willis should have been allowed to remain. Yet he struck a deal. You get rid of him, you can stay. So what happens? I believe his name is Nathan Wade. He resigns and Fani Willis remains. That's insane. With all of the improprieties and foolishness that they had going on. Both of them should have been removed. But Scott McAfee, you're a coward. Scott McAfee, you're a coward. Scott McAfee, I've talked about you many times. I'm going to tell you who you are. You're these milquetoast white male conservatives. You don't have the backbone to fight against these Negroes because you're so damn afraid of being called a racist. You don't have the backbone to stand up to the illegal invasion because you're so damn afraid of being called a xenophobe. You don't have the backbone to stand up to this radical LGBTQ mafia because you're so afraid of being called a homophobe. Well, listen, I'm tired of you people wanting to run for office and occupy an elected position, but you don't have the backbone to fight and stand up to all this nonsense. You see, you're preoccupied with being reelected or reappointed or whatever the hell it is, Scott McAfee. So you know what? You won't stand up to them Negroes down in Atlanta. If you don't have the intestinal fortitude or the balls to do that, step down and let somebody get up there that will. And I've said it, and I've said it to my white conservative friends. I'm going to keep saying it. If y'all don't get the balls to stand up to these Negroes, ain't no way in hell you can make America great again if you can't stand up to them. Because when you stand up to them and all that nonsense, you're standing against DEI and all the rest of this crap. And as I said in the beginning, DEI was created to manage and oversee the interests of white liberals and the LGBT community. It has nothing to do with blacks. Has nothing to do with blacks. Black people, you so gullible and stupid. You come out like an old damn dog and they tell you, oh, DEI is something that we've constructed for you. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. And you hear those words and it massages you. You Negroes feel good. Oh, diversity, that means me. Equity, oh, that means me. Inclusion, that means me. No, it doesn't mean you. It's not meant for you. It's not meant for your benefit. Look around you. You haven't benefited from it. That, just like that term people of color was created for other people. It don't have nothing to do with you. You're not people of color. That was a new term that they created to identify other people who had a little melanin in their skin other than you. They're giving all of your resources and everything away to people of color. And LGBTQers and so on and so forth. You're about the dumbest group of people. And you know what? Hey, listen, I've said this before. Y'all love to say, oh, Alan, you catch more flies with honey. You a damn lie. You catch more flies with shit. And I'm going to throw this shit right at you. Who's ever walked down the street and seen a pile of shit on the sidewalk in the grass and flies not, I'll be all over it. I don't know who came up with that damn line talking about you catch more flies with honey. You a lie. I started that saying that you catch more flies with shit. And I'm going to give you the business. I'm going to give you the shit. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know how to come to you people and present it to you in this milquetoast way. I don't know how to come and rub you and massage you and make it. I can't make you feel good while convicting you. I can't make you feel good while being honest with you. That's a problem I have. I'm sure even my kids feel that way. It's a problem I have. But you know what? I'm just going to be real with you. I'm going to be honest with you. And you know, and I guess that's because everybody's always been that way with me. You know, throughout my life, I haven't found any shortage of people that aren't willing to talk shit to me. Get out of pocket with me. Okay, cool. That's how we playing this game. That's why I'm going to keep it real. I'm coming one way all the time. This is not the place to be if you're looking to be massaged. If you come in here for a feel-good message, go to church for that so these pimp preachers can lie to you and make you feel good and not convict you because they're not going to talk about the gospel. That's why y'all come out of church feeling so good, because they don't talk about the gospel. Because if they talked about the gospel, you'd be convicted. So you go there and they talk about money and prospering and all that stuff to make you feel good. They're not going to talk to you about the gospel, the birth, death, and the resurrection. That's the gospel. They're going to talk to you about that. Because if you get a hold of the gospel, I'm talking to you church people. If you get a hold of the reason why they don't talk about the gospel, because if you get a hold of the gospel and you start focusing on the gospel, you're going to start holding that preacher accountable for the shit that he's doing. Because you're going to say, wait a minute, brother pastor. You're functioning outside of the gospel. And he don't want to be held accountable because he's a shyster. getting money and getting broads. Y'all, let me tell you something. Here in Cincinnati, Ohio, we're live, obviously, from Cincinnati, but I've been talking about Chicago, and I'm going to be talking about other cities. I've visited a few other places here recently. A lot people don't even know. I've visited a few places here recently. I snuck out of town to visit and go lay eyes on things. Yes, and I have quite a few places on the itinerary. But let's talk about Cincinnati now. On today's 320 on 311, I'm riding down the street and on the radio, I hear Brian Thomas. He has a morning show on 5:50 a.m. and I hear Brian Thomas talking about. I just caught the tail end of it, but I guess Brian Thomas and his guest that he has every morning at a certain time, former city councilman Christopher Smitherman, they wanted us, they wanted you citizens of Cincinnati and Hamilton County to believe that Smitherman didn't support us being a sanctuary city. And here's what they said. They said, well, Christopher Smitherman did not vote for Cincinnati to be a sanctuary city. Let me tell you what. They're full of crap. It's almost like a lie of omission. Here's what I'm telling you. He abstained to vote that day. The reason why Christopher Smitherman abstained from voting when they voted for sanctuary city status, because he could have voted no. Because he doesn't have the backbone to commit to that. Furthermore, but the bottom line is he's fine with us being a sanctuary city. So just because he abstained, I'm going to interpret for you. When that man sat there and he abstained from voting on whether we should be a sanctuary city or not, that was his way of trying to present himself as being neutral. And I don't want anybody representing me in any capacity that wants to be that man that's neutral, that wants to be in the middle. He doesn't want to commit over here. He doesn't want to commit over there. He didn't want to offend the Democrats because he knows that he needs some of their votes. So you know what he did? He abstained. So now what is he trying to do? He's out here virtual signaling to you Republicans, so-called Republicans and conservatives, trying to make sure that you understand, well, hey, and let me tell you how all this really came about. Because we're talking about the illegals and all these cities that are sanctuary cities. So obviously, I didn't hear the whole show, but somebody had to call him out and say, well, what about you? You were on council when we became a sanctuary city. And he was very eager to say, well, I didn't vote for us to be a sanctuary city. You're a lie. If you abstained and you supported it, because you had the opportunity to be not just vote against it, but you could have been a voice in those chambers downtown against it. You could have walked around to your other councilmen and you could have tried to sway them and convince them as to why they shouldn't be signing off on us being a sanctuary city. You had that opportunity and you didn't take advantage. I'm sick of you damn people coming out here to lie and trying to present yourself like this when it's really something else. This is all politics because all of y'all worried about getting this job as a politician so you can get that nice little pay. And don't tell me about what job you got when you're not being a politician. You want that extra money. I sit back and I laugh at all these politicians say, well, and when they call you out on what you're being paid, well, I really don't need this. I had a successful career outside of politics. Yeah, you may have had or you may have a successful career outside of politics. But let me tell you something. It's nothing like that immediate pay raise once you get elected and you walk into whatever office it is. And on top of what you were already making in your successful career, you get a new 6 figures, a new set of benefits, and et cetera. Please. You think you ain't kidding. Who you think you're kidding? Not kidding me. You people are frauds. The only thing is I'm going to call you out on it. Running around talking about you didn't. No, you're pro-sanctuary city, Christopher Smitherman here in Cincinnati, Ohio, because you abstained. Anytime you suckers don't want to offend the people that you know that you're going to need to vote for you, you abstain. Nobody elected you to be downtown abstaining. We elected you to show up and vote. People are some clowns. Stop and citizens of these municipalities. Stop falling for this. Stop falling for this. I've been wanting to say this for a long time. I'm going to get this off my chest. I did an episode where I talked about Taylor Swift and how dangerous she is, and her Swifties, how dangerous they are to America, because they're out here registering people to vote Democrat. They're out here registering people to vote Luciferian. They're out here registering people to vote that are going to absolutely be opposed to the protecting the innocent and defenseless lives of these children. They're out here registering people to vote that are going to absolutely be in favor of this whole sodomite culture that seems to be running rampant and taking over America. And Travis Kelce, her supposed boyfriend, you're a bitch. Oh, I've been waiting to say that. Travis Kelce is a bitch. And you know what? Why don't I hear you black folk, and you black women in particular, crying racism and going after Travis Kelce? He dumped the black bride and ran and got with the white bride. Where? Because y'all bitch him on any other time if you see some brother with a white chick, or if anybody does anything that leads you to believe that they are giving preferential treatment to white women or whatever. So why aren't y'all out here ranting and raving about Travis Kelce? But Travis Kelce is a bitch because he's a whore. He's a whore. He's for sale. He sold out to the producers of the vaccine. I think they gave him as much as $10 million to go out here and advertise this so-called vaccine that we know is killing people. And if it doesn't kill people, many people, it has a very adverse effect on them. And it's not even a vaccine. And we're now learning about the effect that it can have on your DNA. And he goes out here and he sells himself to them because he's a whore. That's what a whore does. They sell themselves. And Travis Kelce, you're a whore. You sold yourself to the vaccine people. You're a whore. And then you're running around with this little whore, Taylor Swift, who has all these Swifties. And they're out here registering people to vote because they want to continue this whole Luciferian culture. But I guess you two belong together, a whore and a whore. In the NFL, you should be ashamed of yourself. You took every opportunity to put the cameras on Taylor Swift, to talk about Taylor Swift and who was sitting in her suite with her. NFL, you're supposed to be about football, not celebrities or so-called celebrities, you sons of bitches. But look at the individual that we have running the NFL. Nobody likes him. Fans, we can't stand him. We can't stand him. I said I wasn't going to be on here long. And I'm going to talk about another local politician. I want to get this out right quick. Representative 1st District, U.S. Congress, U.S. House, Greg Landsman. He should not be occupying that seat. But let's make it clear that Greg Landsman, he wants to give temporary protected status to people from Mauritania. That's a country in Africa. That's a country in Africa where the black Negroid population are slaves to the Caucasoid Arab population, Arabzoid population. Some of you say Arabzoid. I call them an Arabzoid Caucasian Caucasoid population. And nobody gives a damn. And Greg Landsman, who's supposed to be this bleeding heart freaking liberal, and you know all the bleeding heart liberals are all about, they're against slavery, and they love to talk about slavery in America, and it was so detrimental and blah, blah, blah. But you're sitting up here talking about temporary protected status to people from Mauritania, and that's not just the Negroid population. That's also the Arabzoid population, and those individuals that may come here. We don't need to bring people from Mauritania here. As I said before, look at the problem that we have as a result of the Clintons bringing the Somalians here. They gave us Ilhan Omar. So now we got all these radical Islamists in Minneapolis and in Minnesota that were allowed to come here by the Clintons from Somalia, and look at what they've given us. An un-American bitch sitting in the U.S. House, Ilhan Omar, who was married to her brother. And she's supposed to be pro-black, and the first thing she does is divorce her black husband, who was her brother, and marry a white dude. I'm just keeping it real on what it is. You people don't want to deal with it. AOC, she's supposed to be this brown girl. She's not. She's a Caucasoid. But she goes out here and she champions herself as this brown girl. I'm this brown girl. I'm brown girl. She's so pro-brown and so pro-black. And the first thing, what does she do? She goes out and she marries a white dude. And I said it before, I have no problem with that. My son-in-law is a white guy. Wonderful guy. Loving. But my daughter isn't one of these bleeding heart liberals out here on the left talking about how she's so pro-black and so pro this and pro that. She's a Judeo-Christian conservative. She doesn't play political blackface like you Democrats do. Well, I wanted to keep my word, and I wanted to come to you live. And I did that again today. Hey, Connie, how you doing? I see that message from Connie. How you doing, Connie? And you're right. Connie says Tulsi is a no-go. See, Connie gets it. Connie is a Black American female. I'm not going to put you out there, Connie, but I'm just going to give people a very brief description of who you are. She's a hardcore conservative, and she gets it. She gets it. And Connie says, "What's up, Alan?" Connie, listen, you get it. We're fighting this fight. You know what, Connie? We need to do a show together. I don't know what your time is like, but we should go live together every so often, if not 5 nights a week. I think that'd be a very good idea. I'd love for people to see you and hear your perspective. Connie is a very strong individual, a very strong conservative individual. She gets it. She says, uh-oh. I don't think they're ready for you, but they need you. They need to hear from you. They need to hear from you. But let me tell you, I wanted to keep my word. What she says, I don't know if the people are ready for that. They're not, but we're getting where they need to be. I'm sure you'll break them in. I'm sure you'll break them in. I said I'll keep my word. We're going to talk. I said I'll keep my word, and I want to keep my word, and I will be back here again tomorrow live. And let me tell you, laugh out loud. Let me tell you, there's going to be a change, because I'm sick and tired. The last thing I'm going to say, I'm tired of these so-called conservatives coming out here, and you're really a bunch of sellouts. And many of you that identify as conservatives, I actually view you as rhinos. You're not conservatives at all. I don't even know where that idea comes from for you to call yourself conservative. And I'm sick of it, because real conservatives, we have to follow a very simple set of principles. We have to understand that first and foremost, we are a Judeo-Christian nation. We have to reject the abortions. We have to reject the LGBTQs, and we have to reject the radical climate agenda people. We have to be about borders, language, and culture. If we don't have borders, language, and culture, we don't have a country. I give Michael Savage credit for that. He has always championed borders, language, and culture. And yes, they are milquetoast, Connie. And you're tired of them, and I'm tired of them too. We're both pissed off about them. And ladies and gentlemen, go out, talk to your children, your grandchildren, your nieces, your nephews, because they are the ones that are selling us out, because you didn't properly fortify these kids when you had them at home prior to sending them off to these universities, where they have now been indoctrinated and turned into little Luciferian democrats. So you better get on your job. Thank you for tuning in, and until next time, I'll see you all tomorrow.